Welcome to the Legendary Backlog, our home of gaming news and all aspects of gaming, retro, current, gen. We got you covered. This is episode 1. My name is Brian, and I'm also hosted by my friend Brian that I've known for over 20 years.
Hello, yes, my name is also Brian, and you can catch me at social medias is Nostalgic Pixel on X and Blue Sky.
Funny story, we've been best friends for like over 20 years. Both our names are Brian, both of them spelled the same, and we just been chugging along together. So now we're doing a podcast, which we're really excited to do. Why don't we go ahead and get into what we've been playing?
All right, sure, I'll be happy to go first. Well, a lot of the games I've been playing mostly have been on my analog pocket, but just pretty much every day I like to play a little while of California games, the Atari Lynx core California games. I like to play the surfing. So just go for high score chases, and it's like you got about a minute 30 seconds. That's how long the game is. It's just timed game, so it's a lot of fun that way. And I just try to get high scores, and then usually that's a good warm up for anything. Um, I've been playing through Resident Evil 4 remake. I'm on chapter 2, and yeah, I recently completed the Resident Evil 4 Classic is what they're calling it now on the PlayStation 5.
I've been playing. I've been split over a lot of games right now. I'm still replaying Cyberpunk 2077. Played that a little bit today. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going through it the second time. I'm taking my time. The story makes a lot more sense the second time through, because there's these periods where you go through a lot of
Mm-hmm.
story, and then you go through like a lot of open worldness and quests and things like that. Or you don't have to; you can just continue the story. But I'm choosing to do that. But the story makes a lot more sense because you understand who all the big players are and how they all come together at the end. So I'm really enjoying that. It's like watching a movie for the second time and really enjoying it more. And then I play on my backlog. I'm playing Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, I believe. Yeah, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, the Metroidvania, and that is a phenomenal game. I'm really glad I didn't skip on it completely. I skipped on it at launch, and I always wanted to buy it. I finally got around to it, and it's really a great game. Great combat. Combat system is really unique for a Metroidvania, in my opinion. And I love the 3D-ness. I love how it backs away and makes stories and everything in 3D. That's really fun. The story seems all right. I mean, they got some interesting characters, but nothing too groundbreaking in the story so far. Right now, I'm just really enjoying exploring the map and everything. But for Metroidvania, I give it very high praise. And then the other thing I've been playing is Call of Duty, of course. I unlocked a gold gun, which is great. Or not a gold gun, a gold pistol, which
Oh, cool.
that took me a little bit to do, because the pistols are a pain. But I got all the diamond assault rifles. I got all the diamond SMGs. And then now I'm thinking about doing light machine guns. And then also I want to have a gold katana for my setup, just to have it. So I'm gonna kill myself trying to get that. But yeah, that's basically what I've been playing.
Well, good. Yeah, you've been making a lot of progress on Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's really good this year. At first, when I first picked up Black Ops 6 after playing Modern Warfare 3 for a year or two, so whatever it was out, I didn't really like it, like the first 6 8 hours of it. But once it really set in, I really enjoy this Call of Duty, and I'm starting to think Treyarch might be my favorite Call of Duty maker. So yeah, I'm definitely becoming a Black Ops fan over a Modern War fan. So that's good. The biggest news item is the Nintendo Switch 2 was revealed. Let's go ahead and give me your big view thoughts on this, kind of like your 1,000 foot view. We'll dive in deeper.
Well, the Nintendo Switch 2, right? It's 8 years after the original Switch. It's I wouldn't say it's needed, but it's definitely welcome. I mean, it's needed in the it's 8-year-old hardware, big upgrade. But it's more than the current one. But you imagine you got to think. Not only did this Nintendo Switch originally come out at 300, but it's still 300 today. It hasn't dropped a penny, and it used to be arcade. Not arcade, but consoles used to drop in price over time. A lot of times from when they originally came out. That one hasn't dropped a penny. But now the new, So it makes sense the new one's going to cost more, I guess. Well, who knows what it's really going to cost, but that doesn't. I mean, that's the big question about it is the price. But hardware wise, I like the way they connect with the magnets. I think that I think the screen is. I haven't seen it in person, but I like the fact that it's got 120 frames per second in HDR. At 1080, that's going to be nice. It looks neat. It's it's funny that you can get so people can get so excited about the fact that it has in-game chat, um, which it's new for Nintendo, to not require your phone to have a chat while playing online. So anyway, it's interesting, and I found out it's using some AI to remove like the background um, for the chat stuff. It's neat. I 1,000 feet view. Sorry, they spent so much time on chat, so it's just that was kind of a
No,
big.
that is a big feature coming to Nintendo. For Nintendo, that's a really big feature. I think it's going to be good, but
It's coming at a bad time right now. I guess could be better. It it's just going to be interesting what happens. What it's going to be like in June when that's coming out. It could be a lot more than even what they've suggested. So, and I don't know. For me, it's like the first time in a couple generations that I haven't bought one over a Zelda game, even though they have the Switch 2 editions. Which is nice. It just doesn't move the needle for me to go run out and get one like other games were.
yeah, my kind of 1,000 foot view of it is first of all, the hardware looks nice, right? I mean, like to me, I have 4 Switches in my house, right? And, the original Switch to me, except for the Zelda edition that I have, to me, it kinda looks like a toy almost, you know what I'm saying? Especially the red and the blue version, you know?
Oh yeah, the different colors. Like I got all gray because that's just what I wanted. But like the bright colors, I like that it's there's color but toned down. But also, I just knew they were going to come out with a bunch of Joy Cons over the years and like a variety of different colors. So if those colors didn't tickle your fancy, there's going to be some new ones later. And with the OLED, they just kind of went classy and made them white. Although that just seems like a cover of dirt. One of the cool things I thought, thinking of you specifically, since you have so many Switches at home, is the ability to like share play a game with people that don't have it, including like people that have a Switch One in some games. So that was cool.
That is a big feature. So they're a little late to the game, but I'm glad they added it.
It's local.
It's
It's
not
not
over
over.
the internet? I didn't
It's,
know that.
I think I don't. Well, it depends. It depends on certain things, but some of it's local only.
The other thing is about the Switch, too, is I'm actually kinda worried about the Joy-Cons myself. And the reason why is because as a person that has 4 Switch and has several children using the, Switches, we've gone through a lot of
Hmm.
Joy-Cons, and, I gotta tell you that whole magnet thing, that looks cool and everything, but I'm afraid that it's not gonna last, like, years down the road. I'm a little worried about that, and my other thing about the Joy-Cons is that, you know, the same price for a Joy-Con, you can get a Pro controller, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. It's like,
Well, that's fine with me because I'm gonna get a Pro
yeah,
controller.
exactly. That's what we all love the Pro controller up here.
Like I only need Joy Cons as a replacement for the Joy Cons that are on there, but I'm not buying extra pairs as much as I'm just using the. You know,
Yeah, but it looks real slick. I like that. And my other issue is that the screen, while it's bigger, it has this huge black like thing around, like border around it. That really makes it a lot smaller than it looks.
well, it's 7.9, so it's bigger than the OLED 7.3 or whatever. Which is, but yeah, I don't know. Big screen protector anyway. We all hope or expect like in 4 years they'll probably make an OLED model, but again, that's probably 4 years, so it's not like if you don't like this one, wait. I say you buy this when there's games that you want to immediately play and you're in the situation where you can.
But like if you're on an airplane, those Joy Cons come in handy.
Well, it's handheld. It seems pretty good. Although I've been wanting to. I haven't really explored with like third party better grip like side Joy-Con replacements. I kind of want to look into that and make it for more like a Steam Deck. More cushion.
I've tried the Hori ones, and they were terrible quality. They broke real quick. I was really excited when I got them, and I love the feeling of it. I was like, "Wow, this turns this into like a man system, not a child system. But
You don't have any fatigue on your hands after a while. That's kind of what happens easily for some games that aren't comfortable.
yeah, but they broke real easy. And but I will say this about the magnets. Even though I'm a little skeptical about the magnets of the Joy-Con, I will say this: ever since I was a kid, you and me know this because we've been around long enough. Yeah, but Nintendo usually makes really quality
Except stick
hardware.
drift.
Usually they make, you know, except for the yeah, stick drift. They didn't even mention that either. So let's hope they fix that in the Switch too.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, let's talk about a little bit of the games coming to the Switch. There's actually a huge number of games coming to the Switch too.
Yeah, some have actual ideas for dates, and then a lot of them are to be announced later.
Which is makes it a little harder to get a clear picture of what the lineup's going to be for launch. But I'm assuming everything that we have a date for is going to be the launch, and everything else is just going to trickle down.
Yeah, and this is kind of a different situation for Nintendo console because in the past they haven't had this much third-party support out the gate. Like when the original Switch came, it was on the back of the Wii U, and there wasn't much interest. And on the same similar thing for the Wii U, there was the Wii, and at that point it had like gotten inundated with shovelware. So on the Wii, it was on the back of the GameCube. So they've been on their backs with upfront third-party support. At least when they did have it, they made a huge deal of it, like exclusive games from Capcom. But like this is a huge support. Like they're like everyone is, if they've made any game that was on the PlayStation 4, they want to get a port or out on this, or can make a PlayStation 4 version of a game today. They'll put it out on this. It seems it's getting in Madden games. Like EA is actually showing up. That'll be interesting. I wonder if you'll be able to play Mass Effect games on there. That'd be interesting.
Well, let's start off with what's the game that you're most anticipating? What's the game that you gotta have right?
Nothing announced.
Okay, for me it would be Mario Kart. My family's a big Mario Kart fan, and it's a Mario Kart world looks great. The idea of driving around everywhere. I mean, we've already sunk hundreds and maybe thousands of hours into Mario Kart. I don't know if I need a bigger Mario Kart, but it definitely sounds like it'd be real fun.
If I was getting anywhere near the launch, that's where I would definitely get for sure. Like that would be the one I'd get, and then I'd later pick up the Donkey Kong game. And waiting for Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime 4 is this year, so that might we'll see. I'm thinking about replaying the Metroid Prime remake that's on the Switch that you played.
Another game that's kind of caught my attention. This is going to be kind of interesting, but Sid Meier's Civilization 7, right? When I first saw that, I was just like, whatever it is, it's on a console. But when then I started thinking about it, you can use the Joy-Cons like a mouse. And I've been watching reviews of people that actually have had the Switch 2 and showed it off. And you can use the mouse on anything, like a blanket, your leg, just a normal desk. Anything will work for that mouse. So what I'm thinking about is, imagine this: laying back at the end of a day in your bed, chilling. You have your Switch docked, and you're sitting there with a Joy-Con playing Civilization. That's a really cool experience. I think would be really nice, just because of that Joy-Con as a mouse feature. So that's a game changer there. There's a bunch of games that have been out for a long time that are coming to the Switch.
When I play the Switch, I have it at my desk here on a kickstand with a Pro controller. So playing any first-person shooters like the Metroid Prime with like the mouse function would be nice. You could just be more. It's more playing on a desk because you need a table in front of you, and it's easy to use a mouse at a desk. So that seems really interesting idea for doing that. Using the mouse is playing it at, already playing at the desk.
I think the mouse feature is going to slowly pick up with the to me, I think it's one of those, it looks like one of those gimmick things that Nintendo does that like no one else but Nintendo uses. But to be honest with you, I think that it could really pick up depending on the games, Like I could imagine Doom 2 Eternal coming out for the Switch, and 2 and they come out for the Switch 2 and using that for that. Other things, they're probably going to release Skyrim on there again, or the Oblivion remake on there. So that would be a good use of it. So there's a lot of interesting things I think about the mouse. I think that's gonna take off. That's my personal prediction. Not sure if it's true or not, but
Yeah, I'm still interested in seeing what else gets announced because it seems like they're not finished.
yes, that's the new thing, right? We already got a list of like a huge list of games for the Nintendo Switch 2, and we're not even done with the announcements, right?
Yeah, and also it's like so games on the list here is like Hogwarts Legacy, which is actually already on the original Switch, but it definitely takes a lot of hits to run on the Switch currently. But the Switch 2, it's hopefully it's going to be a lot better that way. So some of these games are upgraded, but then it's nice to see it's interesting to see like a Street Fighter 6 is announced for actually it says like June. Is that June 5th? Launch? Okay. So that's Street Fighter 6. I haven't even played it yet. Street Fighter 6.
When the direct happened, I was super excited about playing Tears of the Kingdom again. But after looking at some of the Digital Foundry and stuff like that, I'm not sure how much better it's gonna be. We'll see when it comes out. I'll definitely check out the reviews and see if I know someone that has it and go see what it's like. Maybe we should just get into the price, right? I mean, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is $80, and Mario World is $80, and there's a couple other that are $80. I Okay, so I did some research, and some people are saying it's going to be like $15, and
Mm-hmm.
some people are saying it's going to be like 20, but nobody knows for sure. But one of the arguments they were saying, one of the arguments people are saying is, if you go on Amazon right now, you could buy Tears of the Kingdom for the original Switch for $53. If you get a $15 upgrade, you just saved yourself a whole bunch of money. So that's what. So that's something to think about. So I'm not sure how much those upgrades are going to be, but that'll be. I wish they made it to where if you had Nintendo Online, you got the upgrades for free if it's a Nintendo game. I wish they did that. You know what? The original Switch, there should be player choices now, but they just made the original Switch games more valuable by having that upgrade feature.
If you have the current system. But yeah, this is going to be a neat system. I just I'm not in line for it on day one. But there's it's I think when a Zelda game comes out, that's definitely going to get me if I don't get it earlier. That Metroid game, Metroid 4, it's going to be hard to try to play Metroid Prime 4 on the original Switch when there's a Switch 2 out there. So I don't know if I could yeah. And then on top of that, if you get a single player game, you don't have to buy like 4 controllers with launch. So although I definitely want Mario Kart. It's just if you think about Mario Kart in the terms of this is going to be the Mario Kart for the whole generation of the Switch 2, then I don't feel like an urge to rush out and buy it as much. Although it's still probably going to be $80 for the next 8 years.
That's a good point. Yeah, how do you feel about the $80 price tag?
It's from what they're trying to explain. I think Nintendo is saying that it's like if you look at some of these games, it's like $80. It's because they're including like DLC in the game or extra content with the game, so that's why it costs more. But you know, it's interesting that like the Donkey Kong is for 70 and Mario Kart is 80. But like I said, it's probably it's they're treating Mario Kart in a different way this time, or at least we're more apparent to the way they're treating it because like they have the Mario Kart 8 was on the Wii U, and this is this is the successor finally.
Yeah, decades old Mario.
Well, that Donkey Kong game is $70, and it's interesting. It's the same group that made Mario Odyssey is making that game. So I'm surprised if it's interesting. There's $80 games and there's $70 games, and then like third party there can be other games. Um, so it's tricky because those prices don't ever change. A lot of them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to point out. One of the things to point out is that Nintendo never really lowers their prices on their games. Every now and then they'll run a sale, and it's like 10% off or something. Yeah, but right now, like if you go on the Switch right now, the original Switch, you'll find a bunch of sales for third-party games that are really good deals. The Nintendo games is never a good deals. The only Nintendo game or somewhat Nintendo game that's a good deal is that Mario Rabbids game, and that wasn't even made by Nintendo. That's why it's a good deal. So
Yeah, no, yeah,
yeah, but I mean, it has Mario in it. That's the only reason why I brought it up, right? But I don't know, $80 is a lot. Like you got to think about it like this, right? $80 is a big chunk for a game when your competitor to the Switch is a Steam Deck. Now, granted, you don't get Nintendo games on a Steam Deck, but Steam prices are so much more reasonable. Yeah, I mean, and then PlayStation's starting to release everything on PC, and Xbox starting to release everything on PC. You look at, and they're even getting to the point where it's day and date PC. So if you look at it, it's like you could get a Steam Deck and have all the PlayStation games and Xbox games in the future, probably.
Again, that's kind of what it is, though. There's third-party support on this system, but it's really you're buying it for Nintendo games.
Yeah, which is a little bit disappointing that the hardware, from what we've seen so far of people breaking down the hardware, it doesn't look to be as beefy as I thought it was when they revealed it. Like you said, PlayStation 4 games are coming out, right? And most people have said that it'll run any PlayStation 4 game, maybe maybe close to PlayStation 4 Pro, but nowhere near PS5, right? So, I take that into consideration.
But
And
that's normal for Nintendo, though. They've kind of been sitting back on the. It's the latest for handheld, but it's not the latest for computer or video games.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that the dream is to have a Nintendo console for Nintendo games and be able to get everything else on it, right? Third party wise.
That'd be Steam Deck.
Yeah, but the truth is that, like, I was really disappointed about some of the things that Digital Foundry and other people said about the Switch hardware, not really performing. They said that it was performing, like, whenever they tested it, it was more like 1440p instead of 4K. And they did say there's ray tracing in it. Or NVIDIA came out and said,
You heard about ray tracing? I heard nothing about ray tracing. In fact, Digital Foundry saying no one said a word about ray tracing. Yeah.
I was reading today. NVIDIA came out with the post after the Nintendo Direct, and they said there is ray tracing on the system. There's DSSL, and then something else. G-Sync is another one that's supposed to be really big right now. I'm not sure. I don't know too much about that. I got to read.
Oh no, G-Sync's great because it can have more of a variable refresh rate. So that's what it is. G-Sync is for like having different variable refresh rates and it running really smooth on the screen. It's actually showing you those frames as they change. So it's like if a game has a dip in its frame rate, it's not as noticeable on those with G-Sync.
Yeah, but if a third-party game came out on, let's say, the PlayStation 5, Xbox, and Switch 2, I'd still probably get it on the PlayStation, especially considering this thing's going to come
this is a handheld that plays on the TV again. Yeah, still.
Yeah. So, that's a little downer for me that it's not. I mean, when I start thinking $500, I'm looking at a PlayStation 5 as $500. I know it's portable. But, I start to think you can get a hell of a good Steam Deck. You can get an OLED Steam Deck for close to $500. It won't be the 1 terabyte version, but
well, this thing has 256 internal, so it's not like
the $500 version of the Steam Deck is like something like, I think it's like 500 gigs, so it has double the storage.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to compare the processors and everything once it comes out.
Yeah.
But just the library of games that the Steam Deck has, that's one thing that's awesome about PC is that you really don't ever give up your library and it's just carried forward and it has been always. I don't know. That's something to think about with the Switch 2. Do you have any more thoughts on the price?
Well, the price, in fact, we don't really know what the price is anymore because you can't pre-order it in America right now. They pulled the pre-orders for the US for the Switch 2 because they don't know what it's going to cost to get here.
Yeah, so that means it's going to be more than $500. What do you think about that?
Like I said, well, I'm not pulling the trigger at launch anyway because there's not a Zelda game. But like, boy, I'm glad there's not a Zelda game at launch right now that I haven't played.
I'm not pulling the trigger at launch because I don't want to go through the hassle. Because scalpers are already buying them in other countries.
Well, I want to play Mario Kart World, but like you pointed out, like for your home, like you're not. No one's buying Mario Kart to play single player in that house, or even like 2-player. So you're going to end up. I mean, I already want to, like I did with the original Switch. I bought a Pro controller with it, and I plan to do the same thing again. But like, I couldn't buy like 2 more of those Pro controllers or whatever, like 3 to do that. I wonder, I don't know, has there been like a clarification at all if any old Switch controllers do work at all? I haven't heard anything to that effect.
I haven't heard anything. You would think that they would allow it just so everybody could have.
You could play Mario Kart on that GameCube controller, I bet.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited about GameCube games being on Switch too. I'm for real. I love the GameCube. I thought the GameCube was like one of the greatest systems as far as exclusives that ever came. It had some of the greatest Nintendo games on it. There was re-release of Arcana of Time that was great on it. I'm really excited about the GameCube games. I think it's really sad that even this many years later, you need a special controller to play GameCube games because it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't function right without it. But yeah, that's something.
Yeah,
That's something to look into.
have you ever looked at picking up any of those like old system controllers for the Switch, like the NES, Super Nintendo ones, or N64 like ones for the it's like Nintendo Online.
Yes, I actually have the NES ones.
Oh, you do? It's neat that those are Bluetooth, so you can pair them for other things. So I've been thinking about, yeah, it'd be neat to have this is a Wavebird without all the extra space, and it's got an internal battery, and I think it has rumble. Of course, it's got extra buttons.
Yeah, it's got extra buttons. That's gonna be cool. But do you remember how heavy the Wavebird was? I still have mine. I picked
Oh, I have like a couple of them. Yeah,
I picked
yeah.
mine up yesterday just to see what a GameCube controller felt like. Man, that thing's heavy by today's
But
standards.
they adjust the weight around. I think is pretty good.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering how heavy the GameCube controller is gonna
Heavy
be.
by big standards. I don't know. The PlayStation 5's DualSense controller is pretty
Yeah,
heavy.
that is. Especially compared to the Xbox controller, it's real heavy.
Oh yeah, it's much. The Xbox controller doesn't have much inside of it, so it's pretty light.
Yeah.
And then the Switch Pro controller is still also a little bit lighter. And then the PlayStation 4 is a lot lighter. But yeah, well, anyway, one thing that's neat is they like for me, I like to play with the analog pocket, so the dock has now support for a lot of those NES those NES controllers.
That's nice. I'm really happy about the dock. That's one thing we really haven't talked about. But the fact that the dock is just not like this $90 piece of equipment that just has like three wires and a circuit in it, it actually has a fan. It actually boosts the performance of the Switch. So I'm really happy about that. Nintendo's saying 4K everything. I don't think most games are gonna run at 4K. Even now, I just don't think that's gonna happen.
There might be some upscaling, but it's still just not going to be 4K.
It's not gonna be true 4K. I'm wondering. Remember how the PS4 Pro did checkered 4K? I wonder if it's gonna be something like that.
Checkerboard
Yeah,
rendering? Yeah, we could see
I'm
that.
wondering. I want to know more, but I wonder if it's gonna be something like that, or if it's gonna be like real 4K.
Well, I doubt it's real 4K. I mean, they're already showing it's 1440 for the Zelda game. I think it's going to be a lot more 1440. And so far, the third party isn't anywhere near 4K. The only thing that's showing or claiming 4K has been like the Nintendo games first party. So, but they're not showing up that way. At least, we'll see. The neat thing is with all that is Digital Foundry will tell us once they actually have access to it. We'll know all that.
Yeah, true. Any other thoughts about the Switch 2?
Well, June 5th is coming pretty quick. It's it's going to be a short window for when it comes out. With the way everything is, and its price, like it's double the original Switch, I think there's definitely it's probably gonna whatever it brings, it's probably gonna sell out. But I'm sure it's gonna be interesting what the scalper system is gonna be like.
That's what I'm worried
I know
about.
they're trying not to get scalpers, but yeah, it could be like because the PlayStation 5 launch was hell just to get a hold of one for like the first year.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying, right? I'm not gonna buy one until I can just go in the store and buy one, or go on Amazon and buy one. I'm not gonna go. I personally, just to add some backstory, when the PlayStation 5 was really hard to find, I tried to buy one off of eBay. It turned out to be a scam. I got my money back, thankfully. But the only reason why I got my money back is because the person canceled their account and they never contacted eBay again. So if that happens, you get your money back because it's basically a scam. Yeah, I think the Switch 2 overall looks good. I mean, if you have a Switch 1, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a Switch 2 if you like the Switch 1. If you like Nintendo games, you're
If you're
guaranteed.
dusting off your Switch One, you definitely may not be the right off the bat. I don't know, like that's a tough one because like I generally get a lot of things around launch or close. So this might be the first year, but might be at the end of the year. We'll see. Uh, and I definitely want to pick up Mario Kart, but I'm not in for it on launch right now. It's just not good.
You know how they delayed this from last? They were supposed to launch in November last year, and they delayed it.
I think the delay has relations exactly to do with the game launch. They wanted to make sure they had games ready to go, and if like the Donkey Kong is in July, I imagine like Metroid Prime is September, October. So they've been. I think they've just been waiting on getting the games out, ready to go. They didn't want to go out without something behind it.
Yeah, I think I was hoping the delay was so that they could manufacture enough of them to where the market isn't like, the only way you can get one is if you go on eBay or Amazon and you buy and you spend like $1,000. I don't want to see that. Or
Well, we'll
like,
see. That was the thought. People were thinking that was the case, but we'll
yeah,
see.
I don't want to see that for like a year and a half. Like we did with the PlayStation 5, where it was just like almost until 2 years it was impossible to get. It wasn't until God of War Ragnarok came out you could just buy one.
Hmm.
So I really don't want to see that for the Switch 2. I'd like people to be able to get a hold of it, especially because the Switch 2, let's be honest, I mean, it is an adult system. It looks slick. It's totally competing with the Steam Deck now. It's got Elden Ring on there, other things. At the end of the day, kids are going to play it. So I would like to see it available.
Yeah, they have the whole parental controls set up, like for kids. That's new.
I'd
That's a
like to
nice
see a
thing.
parent be able to walk in and get one for their kid, and things like that. I really just like the whole scalping thing. So I don't know. I don't know what they can do about that in the future for games consoles or any hot electronic.
We'll see. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the demand is and like what the market turns out to be. Because this thing could easily come out at like $600 now. Who knows with the way
I'm
things
thinking more
are.
like 650 to be honest.
Yeah, 650. Yeah, 600 is kind of the too low, but yeah, 650 that seems about right. Especially, and we talk about game prices. Well, the thing is like they've been talking about all years, like GTA 6. It comes out like the end of this year, which I'm looking forward to. They're saying it's going to be like the base model's going to be price is going to be $100. So this 80 is just the beginning.
Yeah, well, when you make a game the last 3 generations, you can charge $100. But I don't think that's going to be
Well,
the
that's the
default
thing.
for
Yeah,
any.
the content is a huge difference. It's not like getting Madden for $100. This is not something that, like you said, comes out every year. This is a huge endeavor, and it's a massive game that's going to be coming out with. Their online's still huge, right? With what they're doing.
GTA Online is pretty fun. I played it, and it's really
I
big.
think they should sell it for $100, but act like it's the special edition or whatever, that you're getting all this extra stuff. Like sell it like we're loading it up with a bunch of DLC, so that's why it's $100. But like you got to play this DLC. We don't want you to not have it or whatever. They're gonna have to sell it. I think that's what Nintendo's trying to do.
I wonder if it comes out at $100, how long it'll take for it to go on sale. Because
Oh, that's the other thing is it'll actually go on sale versus like a Nintendo game.
yeah,
So
so I mean GTA, it might be $100. Let's say it's supposed to come out in November, right? But I bet you right around January you start to see it on sale for like, I don't know, 90, $85. Not much of a discount, but there will be a discount.
I don't think. Yeah, Black Friday would be a hopeful to see, but I doubt you'll see something that new. It'll be yeah. But then again, there's going to be special editions and other editions that are going to be even more. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to it, and considering it's even going to be higher than what we're talking about Switch games, it's just interesting that like that's kind of in the horizon of what we might expect.
Kind of what we need to throw in here is the idea that Xbox is releasing a handheld pretty soon.
Well, there might be a bunch of handhelds licensed by them. It may not just be one, so it's interesting. And it's going to be licensed more or less. That it's not going to be like the Surface, is what they're saying. Another company's going to make it for them.
So then the Switch is going to have a competitor in the Xbox, which is supposedly supposed to be able to play other games besides Xbox games, and then the Steam Deck, and then then you got like the LG Cloud and all that. So I guess what I'm saying is the Switch 2 is hitting a more competitive market, especially at that price point, right?
Oh yeah, a lot has changed in 8 years. A lot of changes in 8 years. There's the Steam Deck now, and there's all these different competitors at the Steam Deck, and like you said, Xbox is looking to get in, and it seems like PlayStation at some point is going to get back into the handheld market, and not counting the Portal, but like a real handheld that's gonna be similar in all this stuff, but be on their own platform or whatever. But the Xbox one, it seems like it's gonna be more PC, but with Xbox theming trappings and stuff. It's interesting.
Yeah, the Portal's still $199.
I don't know. I haven't looked, but I don't know if it's changed.
I was just thinking that like if it's still $199 and you think about it, like $300 more, you get a Switch 2. That starts to. I mean, you can reason yourself into anything being a good deal, if you really want something. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that it's just a streaming device. The LG is close to 300 brand new. You can get some deals on it where it's like 238. But if you're looking at 650, like we think it's going to be because of the tariffs, then for 650 you can get the top of the line Steam Deck. So.
Yeah, but the Steam Deck's probably going to be another 25% more too.
Yeah. If you want one, buy it now.
Yeah. If you want anything imported, you probably should have already bought it. Yeah.
All right, let's look back at the game this week that we're going to be discussing that's over 5 years old. We plan to do this every episode. We're talking about Battle Arena Toshinden for the original PlayStation 1.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go ahead and give me some of your high-level views of that game?
All right, so yeah, I was playing it more earlier today. And it's fun because I was playing it with my arcade stick because that's the way I remember it. But I mean, that's the way I like playing fighting games. And I don't know, I've got interesting views on this, but I also have an old memory of when this first came out. Going over to a friend's birthday party, and he had traded in his Super Nintendo and his NES and Genesis and all this stuff and all his games for a PlayStation, and this was one of the games he had. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun we had. I was just like, oh my god, I could never get rid of all my stuff like that for this. But this game is it like started off when this genre of 3D fighting just was about to like catch fire and take off. While this franchise was popular during its generation, it really kind of took second seat to a lot of other ones that just were a lot more polished. The thing I saw that was kind of interesting with the arena fighting here is the jumping was very. It was like a 2-player Smash Brothers in a lot of ways, but with Street Fighter health bars. I felt, because you can have knockouts and stuff, and these big floating jumps, and everyone's got all these cool special moves. The frustrating part for me, because it's showing its age, is like I would throw a fireball or something similar, and it would be my character be facing opposite of the enemy because he just jumped over him and like sent it out into oblivion. And they're never always facing themselves and stuff. So that's something that completely got fixed in a lot of other fighting games. But it was like, it's like I don't know this game well enough to be able to perform some of these special moves, but I keep performing them in the opposite direction of where the enemy is.
Yeah, it's kind of like it lags a little bit to turn around and face them. Huh?
Really floaty jumps and stuff, but I like knocking people off the ring. That's always kind of a fun little mini goal for me. If I don't have to beat them, down on all the health, but if I can just trick them into like getting on the edge and just tipping them over, that's always fun. But some of the special moves are really fun. Except one time I did this special move that took me right off the platform. I was like, oh, great.
Well, considering it was released in 1995 originally, I think it came out in America in 1996. Though.
Yeah, and I think like a month later, Tekken came out and just like, showed everyone this is how 3D fighting can be done. It's the fighting game that came after Virtua Fighter, so it has a lot of like, learning from Virtua Fighter that you can see in it, but at the same time, it tried to make the characters more visually interesting. And there's a variety of characters, and and they're also using weapons, so it predates like the Soul Blade and Soul Calibur games. So it's like it rides that middle somewhere between like the virtual fighting style of game air and to like Soul Calibur.
Right. It was touted to be the console exclusive that was going to be the killer to Virtua Fighter when it came out for the PlayStation.
Yeah, a year later it came out on the Saturn, but when it came out, it didn't come out to the same quality of it because it wasn't. For some reason, it wasn't able to pull off transparent polygons that a lot of these characters were showing off in their outfits and stuff and the special effects and explosions. So it was like a grid pattern one. And while the Saturn has pulled off transparencies in other games, I guess the trickery is just something different than you would have to like perform or pull off when they're porting it over. So, well, it did come a year later, and they were saying it didn't was never going to happen. But that's just we've heard that plenty of times. Something says this is exclusive. It's like, okay, for how long?
Right,
hmm
exactly.
It's exclusive until we tell you otherwise. Yeah.
Right. I thought the characters were really good for a fighting game. I thought they were well designed. The game
Yeah, I
seemed
like to play that
balanced.
old guy Foe or whatever. Fu, he's a lot of fun. I like creating that big ball and him crawling across the screen with it, just like destroying anything in his path. Except there's so many different easy ways to outmaneuver that attack. Um, and then I played the one of the girls with like the short knives, and she was fun because she was like, if I can get close to him, I can do all these combos. But I wasn't as good with distance with her, so it was always like trying to get in close and just swipe, 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 and attack.
Blocking in that game seems a little bit finicky. Um, you know,
I was bad with that blocking, but I
it
noticed
seems like
other
it's
people
better
were.
to sidestep than block. That's the only thing that makes it 3D. To be honest, it's a good. I mean, it's a good game. Don't get me wrong. And for the time it came out, but they were learning from like Street Fighter, Virtua Fighter, things like that. You could tell the way the camera is that this is supposed to be a 2D game that you can just sidestep when you need to.
Well, it's all rendered in 3D, but yeah,
But it plays like a 2D game, is what I'm saying.
it plays because when you jump around and it does you can't you're not always facing your enemy. It plays too much like a 3D game in a bad way. You know,
Yeah.
in any fighting game, I want to always be facing my opponent. This is not the case. This is more like you're running around on a platform, but not quite running around on a platform. Like there's four buttons that you can move. That two of them like replicate themselves. They're just like sidestep, like you said, and sidestepping is a great way not only to block but counter attacks. So you just sidestep and then attack and just yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting about the series, though, I did some research into the series, and if you want to know how to kill a series, research Battle Arena Toshinden because so the first one was a console exclusive for Sony, and it got a lot of marketing push. The second one, funny enough, turned out to be an arcade game first instead of a console game. So I guess they were like, Capcom brings all their stuff to arcades first, so to Sega, then the console later. So we might as well do the same. That really confused a lot of people. They added some really neat, nice characters to part two. They added like four characters. They were all really unique and interesting. One of them used like a Grim Reaper style weapon. I can't remember his name, but he looked really interesting to me. And then part three, they made, or like not part three, they came out with this special version where they added four new characters, but they replaced four characters. So they didn't add four characters; they replaced them, and they replaced some people's favorite characters. So, yeah, not some
Oh,
good moves there at all.
yeah, that's pretty rough. Lose. I mean, it happens, but usually your favorite characters often make it. But then I don't know. A lot of my fighting knowledge is from like Capcom games, but the thing is, like those Street Fighters, there's never one version. There's always a bunch of versions of that game. So eventually, sometimes if the character you like doesn't show up, they kind of add them later.
Yeah, with but you can't do that with a disc back then.
Nope, no, you get what you get. This is it. There's no DLC, but we could sell it to you a second time with more.
Right.
you know, well, here's the Championship Edition. Here's the Turbo Edition. Here's the Super Edition. Here's the Super Turbo Edition. Here's the Double Impact. Yeah. Here's the Arcade Edition.
How did you feel? Okay, so how did you feel about it? Yeah, how's your perspective now that time has passed? Like in today, like now you know everything about fighters. Like, what is your perspective now?
This game came out when it needed it with an audience that was ready to accept it, and that while the franchise did, like you said, did kind of peter out a lot. It before it got overshadowed like a month later with Tekken, it had its moment. It was pretty cool for what it was, but it's definitely not kept with like you don't hear about it getting a HD remaster or anything like that, and I don't think you need it. But it acts, if anyone's curious about playing it, it's too bad that it's not so readily available. But uh, there's just so many other better choices now. It seems like if you're going to go spend time on an old fighting game, but like I said, this was their flagship game. It showed off like transparent polygons and all kinds of stuff. So it was a big deal for the time when it came out, and it seemed like it did well for its time, but it just didn't age well going back playing all these other fighting games.
Looking back on it with my perspective now, I think a lot of the hype of this game was the same thing like around Tomb Raider around that time. Is that it's just like everybody was just like, oh my god, I want to play a 3D game, you know? I want to play a 3D game, you know? This is so amazing. Games are 3D.
Yeah, and the characters, like I said, were more visually interesting than like Virtual Fighter. Like they had more, their outfits and colors and textures and stuff. There was just more. It just is a little bit more interesting on that fact. So they were, trying to say, and like you said, they were put up like whether it was deserving or not. Like they put that thing right next to Virtual Fighter and said this is the competition, and like elevated this franchise by comparing it to their competition like that.
You know what's interesting is that the Capcom, I can't remember which version or which release it was, but Capcom actually published one of the fighters or one of the games for Battle Arena Toshinden. I thought that was interesting. So their direct competition, they actually published it.
Yeah. Sometimes interesting things like that can happen in Japan, but that's definitely unique. That after a while they just let Capcom make them for them. I can't think of Tamsoft and what they've done so much since.
I don't even know if they're still around. They've probably been bought up and shuttered or merged with another team by now or something.
But yeah, they made the first one. Let's see. They started in '92 and they still exist.
What is their latest game?
Bleach, Rebirth of Souls. So a 3D fighter, on the Xbox Series X.
All right, so they're still kicking around. That's awesome. That's good to know, man. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, they made 3 Switch games, and they've made a bunch of PC games. There's 2 PlayStation 2 games, a bunch of PS4 games, and that Una Chabra Z Chaos, and yeah, a lot of anime based games and stuff. It looks like so the studio's still around for sure, but they may have made a Saturn game later on. Steam Gear Mash. Never heard of that. I don't think I played that one. But interesting, they later made a Saturn game.
You know what? I might add one of their games to like my wish list, and then when it's on sale, buy it just to see what they're up to nowadays.
Yeah, I remember the only Bleach game I played. I remember was on the PSP. I got it. It's like imported. It was a fighting game, and it was it was pretty cool at the time. But whatever. Yeah. So the studio still exists. That's interesting.
That's really good considering how studios are always bought and shuttered, merged and shuttered, sold and shuttered. It's pretty good.
Yeah, they've been around since '92. That's a good long run so far in Japan.
I guess the way to stay in business is to keep yourself just under the AAA radar.
Yeah, make games that you know the size of the audience that you can afford to produce those for, and you can stick around. But you can't. I mean, yeah, not everyone can make AAA games, but just
do you know
hopefully.
who published their game, their last game, or their Bleach game? Was it Bandai Namco or was it somebody else?
Well, that was the Xbox listed. The PlayStation 5 listed games. Where are they? There's Bleach Ritual Souls. Okay, and I don't have a link to that game, but let's see. Bandai Namco.
Yeah, so it is Bandai Namco.
Yeah, Bandai Namco owns the anime. Well, Bandai Namco does own the anime to that, so
that's why I was wondering if they did it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, so Tamsoft made the game for Bandai Namco.
Hey man, Bandai Namco's an awesome publisher, man. They've done so much. They had like a run for for several years. They were releasing the FromSoft games and everything. If you like Japanese games, they're like definitely up there as a publisher.
Yeah, they found their niche in anime games, which is good. There's definitely a market there for it.
I think the reason why I'm like so used to seeing Bandai Namco is because of all the JRPGs I play.
Oh yeah, like they have. I mean, they make not only video games but like animation.
All right. Any other thoughts about Battle Arena Toshinden?
I think its legacy is of when it came out and what it was pit up against at the time to kind of kept it viable. And like you said, they ran so it's kind of like it seems like there was a lot of releases in a short window of time, and also there was the window the audience the crowd that 3D fighting game genre became a real crowded space when games that did it, better, like Tekken came out, and Soul Calibur, Soul Blade, like later, just kind of like ran with it. So just kind of, but this is kind of an in between, like like we were saying, kind of straddled the different generations of these 3D fighting games.
Yeah, my personal thought is that anytime a game captures the zeitgeist, you did something right, you know? And it may have only been a month, it may have only been 6 weeks, whatever. But this game did capture the zeitgeist for a while, back in the day in '96. So that is pretty achievable. But we've seen other games capture the zeitgeist and not be able to redo it again. So that's not really anything new. Just seems to be what happened here. And also, one of the things I noticed as I was researching the series was their sequels basically look like the same thing, maybe a little better graphics, right? Maybe a little faster, but looks the same pretty much. Whereas like Virtua Fighter 2 and Tekken were, I mean, like their sequels were just outrageously getting better. You know, I mean, the difference between Virtua Fighter 1 and Virtua Fighter 2 is just tremendous. The difference between Tekken 1 and Tekken 2.
Their Life shows up on the scene, and then you have like all kinds of competition.
Mhm.
I don't know. What did you? I can't remember too much. But what did you think about like the Street Fighter? Is it EX, right? The 3D one on the PlayStation that later came out.
Street Fighter EX, I liked it. Did you know the guy that created the produce or the director of Street Fighter 2 made that game? Did you know that?
No.
It's actually a pretty good game. I have the same problem with Street Fighter EX as I do with Battle Arena Toshinden, right? It's a 3D game, but they really want you to fight 2D, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
But
that's just seems to be a little problem.
I don't know. I like fighting 2D. It's like when you play Street Fighter 4. It's a 3D game, but it plays 2D.
Well, that's different, right?
Well, that's the way when I hear it. That's the way it sounds to me. When it's 3D game playing as 2D.
Yeah, like it wants to be a 2D. Both these games, in my opinion, feel like they want to be a 2D game, like Street Fighter 4, but just 3D. But instead, they at that time they're like, we got to have an arena, you know, because the backgrounds were so easy for arenas back then, you know.
Yeah, they were looking at Virtua Fighter. They were like, we need it to be like Virtua Fighter, but that was their template when they looked at it to make the genre seem. But let's just make it. It had the characters just were a little more impressive and stuff, and there was like they had weapons and some, and there's like some special effects of things more instead of like just straight up fighting. That was a little bit more realistic with the Virtual Fighter.
I'm trying to think of another game that came out around this time that was a big hit. You look at the launch lineup for. So they had Ridge Racer, Air Combat, NBA Jam, the Raiden Project, ESPN Extreme, Battle Arena Toshinden. Rayman was a big one. Wipeout was pretty good.
And then soon we had like a Street Fighter, the movie, the game.
Considering the lineup, Battle Arena Toshinden really shined. You know, to be honest,
It's perfect timing for that game.
it's perfect time, perfect place. I mean, you know, you could get Rayman, which is arguably a better game, especially if you consider it today. But at the same time, though, if you had an NES or a Genesis, and you were used to playing 2D games, you wanted that new 3D game, you know? So that's why Battle Arena really.
This was the 3D generation where everyone was pushing 3D. Like Nintendo 64, most of their games are 3D. There's very few 2D. It's like 2D games are like Mortal Kombat on there. Yeah.
It's terrible, dude. It's terrible. It stutters every time you knock somebody through a floor. But I played so many hours of that. I love that Mortal Kombat trilogy.
Yeah, but like I said, that's like the few 2D games on that console. Like everything else is 3D, and then like there's some amazing 2D games on the PlayStation. So yeah, going back now, Rayman's an easy choice to visit because it's such a beautiful like 32-bit pixel art game. And they made didn't they make a 3D one though that was really stiff? It made Tomb Raider look smooth.
You know, when I remember going up. I remember I went. My dad gave me $100. I can't remember. I did like a bunch of chores, and I was helping out. My great grandfather had died, and I was helping my dad clean out his house. And for that, my dad gave me $100. I went to GameStop and I had to have Tomb Raider. That was like the one game I had to have. And at the same time, I pre-ordered Final Fantasy VII. I was like super excited when that happened. But Tomb Raider was one of those 3D games that you just saw everywhere. Like when you went to Target or Walmart, it was in the system that you could play there on, they used to have systems you could play. And then in my friend's house, everybody was playing Tomb Raider, so I was behind on it because I didn't have much money back then, but I
Well,
didn't
when did you get a PlayStation?
I got it. My first PlayStation was in '98, I think.
Yeah, and this game came out in '95.
I did have this game though. I did have it because I did play a lot of this when it came out because my friend Jimmy, his brother Sammy, had a PlayStation 1, and it was the original PlayStation 1 that messed up and he had to play it upside down. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember people playing them upside down just for reasons that it could read like it was having trouble.
The disc would hit, it would like wobble and hit, but if you turned it upside down, it didn't do that. But anyways, I played Battle Arena Toshinden for it was about 4 weeks. It was like once Tekken came out, we never played it again. But I did play a lot of it when it was out. That was real fun. But I didn't have a PlayStation back then, and it wasn't until I got my PlayStation. I didn't think I got my PlayStation in '97, and I think when I went and bought those games, it was '98. I think is what it was. I can't remember. Let me find out when Final Fantasy VII
Yeah,
came out.
I think I got mine in '97 as well. I got it with Castlevania and rented Resident Evil 2. I couldn't buy both games, so I rented one and bought the other. And I think Castlevania, was on the greatest hits list. So it was like reduced price of like $20 or something. So I got made sure I got a memory card. But boy, I remember third party memory cards. There was a guy who got to like the end of Final Fantasy VII and his memory card failed on him. He had to start the whole game over again.
I got a PlayStation early, man. I didn't realize this. My dad was actually pretty good to me. I got a PlayStation in like '97, and I pre-ordered Final Fantasy before it came out and bought Tekken in '97. So that's crazy to think about that. I didn't even realize my dad bought me one that early. Because, like, when you're a kid and you really want a system, it's like every day that you go without it feels like eternity.
Also, remember this came out at $299 versus the Saturn's $399, so it already came out at a competitive price. But even then, like when we were talking about '97, '98, it had come down even more since then. That's something that we haven't seen much in this generation, is like console prices dropping over time.
Yeah, that's the thing of the past. Because to be honest with you, when the PlayStation 5 Pro came out, I thought we were going to see a price drop for the regular PlayStation 5. And when the Switch OLED came out, I thought there'd be a price drop for the regular one, but there wasn't one really much of one.
No, it's still $299 if you want to go buy a Switch today.
There's nothing like we used to see in the past where it's like almost like $100 to $150 off of the price tag or whatever.
And we didn't even talk about the fact that there's a Switch Lite, so there's going to be a Switch 2 Lite at some point, and I don't know when the Switch Lite came out, but it was not right off the bat.
I'm not sure, but yeah, I didn't even think about that. There could be a Switch Lite too. I don't know how well the Switch Lite sold.
I think I heard I don't know, I have some friends that have kids that they've given the Switch Lite to. Part of the reason they like the Switch Lite is they don't occupy their television. You have it on the system. You play it there. You don't need to watch it on the big screen because you can't. It's not a choice.
Oh crap! There's 25.27 million units worldwide of the Switch Lite.
Yeah, it's been popular. Like I said, a lot of times people give it to their kids, so they don't even need a TV. Well, I mean,
that is so smart. Because then because with all my Switches, we got docks, and then I had to put TVs in the girls' bedrooms, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, Switch Lite just removes the Switch, which for you and I, it doesn't make sense because the whole idea, the title of the console is switch from handheld to console. That's the Switch. So without doing it, it's just Nintendo handheld, which is fine. But no, the way you did it, you got the best setup. You got the best switches, and then they have choices and options they can actually switch. But yeah, the Switch Lite is what I hear some people have been giving their kids, so and on purpose because they can't use it on the TV.
Yeah, I was reading about the PlayStation 1. This is a little bit off topic, but I mean the PlayStation 5 sales, and year over year they've gone down 29%. And considering that the sales of the PlayStation 5 are like half of the Switch, it's amazing that Sony's made so much money,
Oh yeah, I mean while this comes out, I don't know how it's going to affect the PlayStation 5 sales if you think about it in that way. because the PlayStation 5 has been, doing pretty well for itself. I think it's going to continue to do well, especially with GTA 6.
I think that's when we'll see the Pro take off. So right now, the Pro's struggling.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Pro is interesting and it's expensive as can be, but like the system seller is going to be GTA 6 and how well it, what's the big difference between them. But like what they showed for me, the side by side comparisons. I mean, my biggest problem with the Switch or the Pro PlayStation 5 is I don't have a television that take advantage of its features. Like I don't have 4K 120 or a TV with variable refresh rate. So, I mean, that's I guess an easy giveaway for me that I don't need to worry about it.
So
'cause
now you have to buy a new TV. You got to get a new monitor for it.
well, no, the Switch 2 I don't. I can do 10. I can do 120. That's the one thing that was nice. It's like, oh, I can do HD, 1080p 120, and 4K 60, but I can't do higher than that. So I'm getting everything I could out of a Switch 2 whenever I choose to get one. But like, we'll see. I'd like to find out more about the Metroid Prime, but like, really, I know if they announce, even if they make it like an announcement for a Zelda, I'm gonna pre-order that thing when I get a Switch. It'll be like that.
Yeah, sadly, it'd take a new Mario game or maybe a new Zelda for me to really be jonesing to buy a Switch. Right now, I almost feel like buying a Switch 2 is more like buying it for my kids, for the family.
And for what I've noticed, is this is the I don't know. It's gotten me more interested in going back and playing my Switch 1, like as it is now. Like there's games I definitely missed, and it's on a backlog that I eventually either want to get and play on it. So it's like 8 years of looking back, and there's gonna be like new Switch games released for like the next couple years. It's not like even though the Switch 2 is coming out, there's gonna be games that are only coming out on the Switch 1, or just
All right. Well, thanks for listening to our show, The Legendary Backlog, where we all discuss games that are on our backlog that we're trying to conquer or play a little bit of. You can find me at Trywind Brian at X or just Trywind on YouTube. I'm going to start streaming and uploading videos there more in the coming weeks. Where can they find you, Brian?
Yeah, so you can find me, Brian, thanks, on Instagram or X or Blue Sky under Nostalgic Pixel, and as well as YouTube Nostalgic Pixel, and on Twitch Nostalgic Pixel TV, where I'm streaming. And right now it's Resident Evil 4 Remake, and I look forward to hopefully releasing some new videos on my YouTube channel soon.
All right, and with that, the Legendary Backlog is out. All right, thank you for listening to the show, and you'll see us next week.